From vinyl music sounds to lively verbal go-arounds,
this is Into the Runout. Are we done?
This is all free.
Are we done?
We're done. That's it. Grab your shoes. All right. Well, I'm here with Ed Schwartzman here in Bloomington, Indiana. Me and Ed met, I don't know, how long ago did we meet? Like a month ago, maybe?
And by the way, I hope we're going to talk about how we met. I love that story. So that's a great place to start.
So I love bagels. I love my carbs, as you can tell.
Who doesn't?
The best place to go for bagels in town is Gable's Bagels. So I've been in there before I met you, actually.
Okay.
And I went in with the wife, and we're both standing in line, and we see you back behind the counter.
Okay.
But we're just waiting for everybody.
Sure.
Because there's a line. There's always a line. And we're like, I told my wife, I said, hey, I bet you that guy back there's the owner. Because he's very lively, and he's talking to everybody and talking to people that aren't even in line yet. And she's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's him. But we didn't talk to you that time. So then I go in another time, and I have my co-host here, actually. He told me he was not with us this week, but he was here. We're doing an episode here. And I went to go get bagels because I'm like, you got to get the bagels because they were great.
Nice.
I had never had a breakfast bagel.
Nice.
So I go in, and I'm like, I told my wife and my daughter, I said, I'm going to wear my Into the Runout t-shirt. We just made them, and I'm like, I'll bet you somebody's going to say something about it. I just know it. And everyone's like, no, nobody's going to say anything. They're not even going to notice. So I go into the bagel shop and get up into the line. And then first thing you say to me is, Into the Runout. What is that?
That sounds like me. Well,
if that's how you remember.
Yeah, it is. Well, one thing I have found is that people give you gifts all the time if you're looking for them. And in the worst case, you would say, don't bug me, or it's nothing. And you'd give me a negative body language, and the conversation would be over, and I would just take their order and move on.
Yeah.
But I have met so many people and had so many amazing interactions because I opened my big yapper. And, I do like to talk, and it beats working for a living. And so I remember vividly, you had the logo on your shirt right above your heart. And I asked you about it. And I want to say you said it's a podcast. Mm-hmm. You might have said the word music. Now,
it's a podcast.
And I might have said, and me being me, I like once somebody gives me an answer, I love then not just saying, okay, what can I get you? I then love saying, until, and usually when I'm asking questions, sometimes it's because I want to slow the orders down, because if there's a lot of tickets to my right, it does me no good to just load up the tickets. So I'd rather slow walk you. And then the staff so that there's a strategy, not just I want to, schmooze with you.
That's a good manager, but
well, I mean, it is the strategy, slow, like in the director's going like stretch.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, so I said, I might have said, what kind of podcast? And you said it's about music. And now at that point, I noticed we have a line behind you, and it's time to get going. Mm-hmm. So if you come into the restaurant, and it's more of a shoebox than a restaurant. When people hear restaurant, they're picturing, it's very small, 800 square feet, could not be any smaller. But within the store, there is a sign that we made, a storyboard about my son, about Ben, which is mainly why we're here today, if for nothing else. And so I asked you, I said, I want you to do me a favor. I've just met you, and how many restaurants do you go into, and the owners asked me to do him a favor.
Do me a favor.
Right.
I'm hungry.
Go clean the toilets. Right. Check to see if we need more coffee and take out the garbage. So I said, I'd like you to do me a favor. And again, in the worst case, you'll say no. I mean, screw you. I came here for a bagel. I said, I have a project that I've been working on for a long time. It's a music project. I'd love for you to take your phone. It's called the QR code. Yeah, yep. I'm not big on the terms.
You got it.
And I said, there's a QR code. If you just go scan it or whatever and download it. And if it inspires you to reach out to me, that'd be great. Grab my card. If not, that's okay too. I always try to be very indifferent, because if I'm pushy, who the heck wants to deal with anybody's pushy? I'm only pushy when you're ordering a bagel that I don't like, and then I'll kind of try to steer you that way. And son of a gun, I think you called me the next day. I think very soon thereafter. And so there's a Jewish word called besheret, which means fate. And by the way, I don't know a lot of Yiddish, but I know, enough of the key words and the curse words. And that's a good word, fate. And what's funny is when you mention fate, I think we kind of make our own fate. Like you meet somebody and then you turn back and you say, wow, we've been friends 20 years because of that chance encounter. It must have been fate. Well, but also took somebody reaching out and, extending yourself and wanting to make, and I think I even said to you after we spoke, I said, if we could do anything great, if not, we could still be friends because I don't know about you, but I could use more friends. I don't have a max. I don't fill up the box, and that's no cap on making friends. So you reached out to me, and basically the story is the storyboard, which like with me, everything is a story. So what you looked at is a sign that says "Listen for life," and that was one of my employees that came up with that catchphrase, and it's a link to my son Ben's music, and obviously we want you to listen for life. For the rest of your life, which would be nice. But we also want, if you're listening, every time somebody plays his music, Centerstone, which is a not-for-profit out of Nashville, gets like an eighth of a penny. Like if you're on Spotify or Amazon or wherever these streaming services are, every time somebody downloads music, and I don't know how it works, quite frankly, but there's millimeters of a penny that somebody makes. And so, we donate the music, and we'll talk about the cause in a second as to why, but we donate the music, the whatever revenue is generated, which right now is next to nothing, to Centerstone. So not only listen for your life, but listen, and Centerstone is a not-for-profit to deal with mental health and suicide prevention. They're the biggest in the country.
Just to catch everyone up,
please.
Maybe we're moving a little.
I do. Give me back.
Let's tell us. Can you tell everybody a little bit about Ben and
please,
how he got to making that music?
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay.
How that QR code came about.
Right. Thank you. So my son Ben Schwartzman was born in Southern California, in Long Beach, California. My wife and I, through a whole series. I'm born and raised in New York. She's from Pittsburgh. We're no longer married, but she is still from Pittsburgh. So we met in Chicago. We won't get into details about that, but ultimately I got an opportunity to move to Southern California with her, and we're young and we're, let's just go see the world. Why not? It sounded exciting at the time. And we moved to Southern California. We got a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath in Long Beach, California. And Ben was born in Southern California. And when he was 3, we already had a sister who was just born, Sister Haley. My wife at the time, her name was Debbie. I had just lost my job, and I would have stayed and found another job. I'm happy wherever I am. In Southern California, I had a group of like 12 guys that lived all around. We played full court basketball up in the park. And one of them was a high school referee. And on Wednesday nights or Thursday nights, we'd go into a gym that he had the key to, and we'd play indoors, full court. And that's all I needed.
Yeah.
If you and I are playing basketball,
you're talking my language.
Yeah, we're best friends. That's all I needed. Full court basketball, private court, just amongst us. And anyway, so she wants to move back. She misses her family. And so we moved back to Lake County, Indiana, which her family, her mom and dad had moved there from Pittsburgh. So Ben was basically raised in Lake County, Indiana. We moved to a place called Cherryville. And nice upbringing. When Ben's about 12 or 13, he could always sing beautifully, just beautifully. Sweet kid. And when he's about 12, 13, he wants to play guitar. All any parent wants is for their son or daughter to do something. We're going to get you to music, get you into art, get you into volleyball, soccer. I don't care. Chess. I would just like you to have a passion. I just love seeing kids who are into something.
Well, you believe in your kids, and whatever they do, they're going to be the best at it. So
right. Put their energy. If you put your energy towards it, you can't fail.
Yep.
And even if you do, there's not like you're going to succeed. It's just we're going to grow and develop you as a human being. And so Ben started playing guitar, and he was good at it. And he was not he never was a Jimi Hendrix slashing kind of, he was an acoustic. He in the beginning, he played a lot of Cat Stevens.
Nice. Good way to start.
Love Cat Stevens. I think the first song he ever learned was that he really sang was Sublime's Santeria.
Okay. Yeah.
He owned it. He really, it was amazing. He had just a beautiful voice, angelic. It really was. One of my mom's friends once compared him to John Denver, and I never saw that before. But when it's so funny till somebody says something to you, and then you go back and you listen.
Well, I could hear it in the songwriting. I could hear that because he was a great songwriter. If you listen to the lyrics, he kind of had a knack for that for sure.
And so, and I do love John Denver. So anyway, so
I listen to some. I got some.
In
the D's.
Nice. Just don't put it in the J's. Whatever you do.
No.
So anyway, so he's playing, and he goes to we take him to music lessons once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And a good friend of mine, at Jerry Clemens, who had a store, I don't think it's still there anymore, called Dynamite Music in Griffith, Indiana.
Which we found out he's a mutual friend of ours. If you remember talking about that.
I kind of do, but that'll be a part 2 of this.
We'll talk about that.
Jerry Clemens was a key person.
Maybe we'll get him on the phone, talk to him on the phone.
That would be, he would too. He loves to. You think I like to talk? Jerry never met a stranger.
He's a talker.
And a sweetheart of a guy. And so
he gave him some lessons.
Well, it wasn't his. So Jerry
just at his shop.
Yeah, and so while Ben was getting lessons, I would hang out with Jerry, and I became good. And that's how I would, like every Thursday, let's say from 6 to 6:30, Ben's in the studio working with one of the teachers, and I'm hanging out with Jerry at his counter. He was a huge Cubs fan. We talked baseball. Again, I like to talk. I don't like meeting people. Yeah. So Ben's growing and developing in music. He's 15, 16, and really getting good. And starts coming up with his own originals. First, he would just do covers. Mm-hmm. And I remember I used to take him all over Chicagoland, which is what they call the Chicago area, Chicagoland. And for open mics, there was a website, may or may not still be there. I'm sure it is. Openmic.com or something to that effect. And then you just pick your city and your day. And
it tells you where to go.
Correct.
Nice.
And I would take him all over just to have him play. And it was a labor of love. And there was a line in a movie. I'll never forget this. One of my all-time favorite movies. I love chess, and you happen to know that about me. Called Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Yep, watched that.
I love that movie.
Yep. It's a good movie.
And the actor, the basic storyline is the father has this son who has a gift. And even though his son is so gifted, it's kind of a challenge for the dad doesn't quite know how to play this hand because, he doesn't want to screw it up. But yet, anyway, so that's one of the storylines in the movie. And so there's this one scene in the movie where he goes to the open house in his son's first grade class. And the teacher says to the dad, and I don't remember what his real name. It's a true story about Josh Chaikin. I don't think they call him Chaikin in the movie. So, but she says, Mr. Jones, your son missed art last week. You really, I realize he likes to play chess, but she kind of dismisses this chess thing. She might even say, this chess thing, it's not as important as what we're doing here. So I'd really appreciate if you kind of don't focus on that. And the way she says is very condescending. At least he gets offended. And he looks at her and he says a line to her that is just so amazing. And he basically says, and by the way, the footnote to the story is the actor, who I believe is Joe Mantegna, and I have to look it up. I actually met the actor at an event in LA, which is a whole separate story. And I told him this story because it was so, he turns to the teacher. He says, let me tell you something. And he gets a little huffy with her. He's not like trying to make conversation now. She knows he's putting her in her place. He says, my son does something better in his life than I've ever done in mine. Mm. And that's how I feel about Ben's music.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have our talents. I'm kind of fortunate. I'm not great at anything, but I'm good at a lot of things, right? That's how most of us are. He was, average, off the charts, average, below average. And so, anyway, that was Ben. He was just off the charts, in my opinion. It wasn't like, we took him to some music test. They said, this kid's aptitude was insane. And he didn't read music. He took music in school. I think he might've played the trumpet for a while. And he didn't know how to read music, but he was never composing. He was just, with guitars, they do,
scales.
Thank you. Yeah. And so he was writing his own stuff. And in the beginning it was kind of rudimentary, but he would just doodle all the time.
Uh-huh.
Just doodle.
Well, it was just in him. It was in his blood.
Correct.
He just had nothing.
Correct.
Couldn't help it.
Right. When he was sitting watching TV, he'd be lying down, just have a guitar, just play guitar. Really not like that. More like this. Just strumming. Just strum with chords. That was the word.
Stretching the fingers, building the calluses, all that kind of stuff.
And so Later, he keeps developing his talent. But unfortunately, at the same time, he starts messing around with drugs. Nothing heavy, 16, 17. But he's starting to smoke dope. And the bigger thing is he's starting to develop what is obviously depression and, I guess, mental illness, for lack of a better term. And we knew it. My wife and I knew it. And also my wife and I were going through a tough time. I don't recall us fighting in front of him. I'm sure we did. I honestly, I'm talking right now. I'm in like 2005.
Okay.
So a few weeks ago, this is a 20-year-old story. And, so my brain, the way I'm wired, I only remember the good. I really don't, I try to not erase the bad, but what's the benefit?
What's the benefit? Exactly.
It doesn't do me any good.
Yep.
So I focus on the good. And so, but I know he's struggling with mental illness. He has a counselor at this point, and he's still playing music. He has a girlfriend. He's playing local clubs, but nothing big. It's not like, oh my God, Ben Schwartzman is playing tonight. He would play at the local coffee shop. I'll never forget this one story. There was a Potbelly's opening up. I knew when I'd go to Chicago, Potbelly's always had a guitar player. So now I see Potbelly's is opening up like around the block from our house. And I go in there during construction because Ben had trouble holding jobs. He would always get them. And again, very sweet. Anybody, I have restaurants. Anybody like my son that would walk in, well, this kid seems sweet, but the work ethic of like a sloth, or there'd be a party that night. You say, I'm not working tonight. I'm, so no call, no show. And it was never out of belligerence. It was just Ben. He was kind of like the leaf in Forrest Gump. So anyway, just floating that this guy had a little life. And so Potbelly's is opening up, and they're about a month away from opening. And I go over there and I open the door, and these guys with hard hats on and blueprints. And I said, by any chance, the manager here? And they're like, yeah, who the hell are you? And I said, I'm really sorry to bother you, but I said, are you guys going to have a guitar player here? And they said, yes. I said, well, I can tell you right now, I already got your guitar player for you. And I said, yeah, I would love for my son to audition. And the guy says, all right, send him in tomorrow too. And I walked out. The whole thing took maybe 30 seconds. I told him to live around the block. I promise you I got your guy. And I come back home and I said, Ben, I got you a job. Probably the third or fourth time I've done this for him. And but this is my first like gig for him for music. No, I got my job, working at Domino's or whatever. But
did you tell him the guitar playing part? Or
yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the story goes, he goes and does the audition, and he comes back and he goes, Dad, I got the job. And I thought I was over the moon. So me being me, now I want to go back and thank the guy. I wish I knew his name. So I go back in the store and I find him, and I shake his hand. I said, I just want to thank you very much. It means a lot to me. Because my son was getting fragile. I knew, with his issues, and it wasn't overt to anybody who met him, but to me, my wife, and those who really knew him well, we knew he was struggling. And so he says to me, he says, I got to tell you, he said, I want to tell you a funny story. He said, the kid started playing a song, whatever song he started playing, it was probably Santeria, because he could just play that in his sleep. And he said, I knew I was going to hire him like in the first 5 notes. All right. He said, but I made him play like 4 songs because I just wanted to hear him play. And I just love that. And I love that vision of Ben just standing there, playing for the guy. And the guy says, my God, I got this kid. This kid's unbelievable. So stories like that. So, but anyway, but a good example of who Ben was. I'll never forget. This is a Jerry Clemens story. So Jerry kept saying, and Jerry has this accent. I don't know if it's Northwest Indiana, but hey, you cool dude. And so Jerry said, I got to get this kid, and I got to get a band behind this kid. I just want to get a band. And my son was an acoustic player, and I could never quite understand when he would say, put a band behind him. To me, in my mind, not that I cared if he was going to be famous, but if he was, to me, he was going to be like the next Cat Stevens, or next Tom Petty. But obviously Petty had a band, they electrified, even Bob Dylan, plugged in. And so Jerry kept saying, I want to get a band behind him. I want to get a band behind him. And he never had one up until that point. So, Jerry played like once a week at a big bar in town called Northwoods, a big, gigantic.
Know it well.
Yep. In Cherville.
Yep.
It's no longer there. I don't even know if the building, I haven't been up to that area in a million years. I don't even know if the building still stands, but gorgeous at the time. It was an old rustic log cabin. Huge, a high roof. Oh my God. When they first opened. So Jerry says, all right, listen, I've got a gig for Ben. He's just going to play in between sets at Northwoods like this Thursday night. All right. Because my band is playing and we open up at 8 and he can go on at 9. Now he's not supposed to be in there because it's a bar, but just keep an eye on him. Fine, Jerry. So Ben goes up there. He would do a version of Can't You See by Marshall Tucker. What's funny is my son, we talk music a lot, and he was not a country western, and I never noticed it, Southern rock, country western, but Marshall, and we try to put a genre.
I guess that would be Southern rock.
Southern rock, that's the term. So, but he was not Allman Brothers, I don't even know how he discovered this song. Now, in hindsight, and I'm not giving anything away, my son died by suicide in 2007. So, in hindsight, and I love that song, but until he dies, I never realized that there is suicide in the song. Gonna find a mountain, highest mountain, jump off, nobody gonna know. And I'm thinking in hindsight, the reason he liked that song was because of that fucking line. Because, I think early on he knew where this was heading. I just do. And so, but he did a version of that song that one of Jerry's bandmates jumped up on stage during him singing it solo and did the harmonizing when he's going, can't you see? Oh, can't you see? The back and forth. And so Ben does 2 or 3 songs, probably did Santeria. Don't have any videos of any of this, of course. But would usually do Yesterday. He had originals, but he's not doing them at this point. And now his set is over. Gets a huge applause from the crowd. And the band is about to come back on. So he did his job. And it's a school night, by the way. Okay. Ben's in high school. And my wife did not, it was just me and Ben, and my wife, I know, didn't want me taking him because it's a school night and his grades are failing and, all the things that come with teenage boys who are struggling, at least for my teenage boy. And
but you're trying to help make them feel better.
Exactly. And foster and grow and water this flower that could just sprout into a beautiful, beautiful forest of just incredible music. And so I'm talking to somebody, I'm shaking hands. People are like, oh my God, your son's so talented. You should get him on American Idol. I would hear that all the time. And this is when American Idol was exploding. And I kept thinking, I can't get him on American Idol because, he'll just follow somebody and I'll find him dead in an alley. That's what I kept thinking. He would win, in my opinion.
Well, that show seems like it moves too fast because, it's on TV. So
correct.
That's your perspective. So you're like, that's just going to sweep him away probably.
Correct. So, right. I would be.
Not that I know what you're thinking, but
no, it's exactly what I was thinking. He's not ready for that. He could not handle it. Some kids can. He could. And so I'm shaking hands with people in the bar and I'm trying to find Ben. Where's Ben? I turn around. He's sitting at the bar doing shots.
Not supposed to.
Doing shots. So I say, Ben, what are you doing? He's like, Dad, these guys wanted to buy me shots. What was I going to do? Say no? He's maybe 16, 17 years old. Now, he obviously knows better, but in a way, knowing my son, he doesn't. He just literally like the leaf in Forrest Gump. And I don't know how many shots. He wasn't inebriated because he probably was doing shots that I didn't even know about. But, I take him home and of course I probably get flack from the wife. You weren't supposed to be out there. I didn't tell her about doing the shots at the bar. Well, I said, Ben, Jerry brought you here. I said, if excise, if the police found out that an underage kid is doing shots at the bar and nothing happened, but as a father, you try to paint the worst case scenario to try to scare him a little bit. Ben, out of respect for Jerry, you can't be doing this. Anyway, that's a good story about, where Ben was at. He was just this footloose, fancy-free guy. But I want to be clear, when he would perform, and I do have videos of him performing, he was very somber on stage. He wouldn't walk around. In fact, when he would sing, he always had the mic cord. He liked to perform barefoot whenever he could. And he would take the cord and wrap it around his toe.
Okay.
Just a little picadillo that he had.
Like a safety blanket.
Exactly, like his tether. Feather. Yep. And typically looked down when he sang. Did not do a lot of audience interaction. I remember once he performed here in Bloomington. It was one of the last shows that I was going to perform. It was at a club that is now defunct. And if I really thought long enough, I'd come up with the name, but not critical to the story. But also it was a 21 and over bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I had kind of schmoozed the owner. I said, just let him play, a set. I just wasn't, I had moved down here. My marriage had fallen apart and I had now moved down here. I was going back and forth between Bloomington. I met a young lady down here and my story's not critical to this and maybe we'll get to it, maybe we won't, but I'm living down here and he comes down and I want him to perform. I selfishly want to hear him. And plus I want to keep him sharpening his axe and, getting better and better. So I said, Ben, I have a gig for you. It's at, this place. So I wish I could come up right there.
Such and such.
Yeah, it's such and such.
That's what it's called.
So sure enough, he gets up there and he plays probably Santeria. He does Yesterday by the Beatles. He did a version of Take Me On My Way. He used to own Take Me Up Rusted Root. Take me on my way. And he probably closes with I'm a Creep. And he would sing that song it was to him, it was autobiographical.
Well, that's the kind of song you got to feel to be able to carry it over.
Without question. I mean, I could almost fall apart just thinking about how he owned that song.
Yeah.
And so the owner, who was this big guy, walks over to him, puts his arm around him. I wish I have this image in my head. And he says to me, had a big, deep voice. He goes, son, I understand T and X, but you might want to consider lightening it up a little bit because he was singing heavy songs. He wasn't singing Sweet Caroline. He wasn't singing, Let the Sun Shine In or whatever. It was all his songs were kind of heavy. And then, if you listen to the music that he wrote and performed, some of them were up tempo, but the lyrics are heavy. But that was Ben. The thing that I admired most about my son is he was true to himself. In other words, every dad, when you have a son or a daughter, you don't want them to go with the crowd. You want them to be their own person and carve their own path. And like we all want to be true to ourselves, right? Well, I really don't like this. I'm not going to do it. No, I'll do it because somebody else is doing it, right? And so he was true to himself. Many a time I'd say, Ben, you might want to lighten it up for your audience because it's hard to sit here song after song and with this heavy music, throw in a little Bob Marley, throw in
Mellencamp here and there.
Yes, people want to sing along. And when you're only playing heavy, anyway. So, but he was true to himself, and that was admirable, very admirable. But sadly, on October 15th, 2007, he had decided he had enough. And the thing that our therapist had told us, this is when Ben was alive, he said, you don't have to worry that he's going to take his life every second, because that's not how suicidal people think. But when that suicidal thought happens, when they say, that's it, I'm checking out, whatever that is, and obviously we wish we had like a meter like we know, but you don't. But anyway, I'll never forget, about 2-3 days before he tasted life, I pull up to grab for dinner or whatever, and he's sitting on the porch in front of the house. He says, Dad, I'm going to quit the guitar. Ben, why would you quit the guitar? I'm just not that good. I know everybody says I'm good, but I don't think I'm that good. I remember I said, Ben, you might not be Eric Clapton. You might not be Jimi Hendrix, but that doesn't matter. You're really good. And I would really, really appreciate it if you don't quit the guitar, because, A, you're good, and B, I think it's good for you. And, as a dad, though, well, you got to do what you think is best. That'll lie, be true to yourself. But that was the clue. That was one of many, hindsight's always 20/20. And he was just days away at that point. So he took his life on October 15, 2007. But what I was so grateful for is that through all that incredible despair and depression, and my God, the first 2 years, surviving that was, I don't know how I did. Honestly, I do not. And I don't even know how I could sit here and not be bawling my eyes out right now. But
I got the Kleenex ready.
Thank you. But it's funny. I remember when I would meet people who had lost their kids for whatever reason, suicide, car accident, cancer, whatever. And they would talk about it. They weren't crying. My thought would be, how cold could this person be? But it's amazing. They say, the heart heals, but there's always a scar. I'm sure I will cry at one point today. And it's I never know when they're coming. The waves will come. But the first few years, I was just an absolute mess and would have done anything to have gotten hit by a bus or have a meteor hit me or because I wanted to check out, but I couldn't do it to myself. My parents are still alive. Ben had a sister, Haley, and obviously that's a very fragile situation. You know, when you're the younger sibling of a kid who takes a life, you are like 1,000,000% higher rate of also taking your own life. That's the worst hand to play.
Yeah.
Being a parent, that's a horrific hand. Being the sibling, 10 times worse. And so, but right after he died, I hatched this idea. I said, I got to do something with the music. And that's very typical when anybody dies. We got to start a foundation. Right afterwards is when you're like, we got to do something. We have to make sense out of this senseless act. And I actually, feel grateful that I have this asset, his music. He left us 11 songs. And his songs are not about getting laid. It's not about getting a girl. It's not about a car. If you read the lyrics when you see him playing his music or listen to the songs, they're heavy lyrics. Now, some of the tunes he has one song that is upbeat, like from first note to the last note.
Mm-hmm.
But even some of the other tunes that kind of are upbeat take a dark turn in almost every song. And, but the point is, since he died, I've said to myself, I got to do something with his music. I have to do something with his music. And, I've come close, and I say come close. Here I am sitting with you. So I
that's what you're doing now.
Correct. And what is it that I'm hoping to do? By the way, I'll just interview myself. I'll ask the question.
Well, you're doing great. And going into this, I'm like, man, I have so many questions, but I'm like, how many times has he been asked these questions? So I would ask the same questions again. Then I'm thinking, I'm just going to let him be like Robin Williams on Johnny Carson and just run the show. And all right, let's go to commercial.
Well, by the way, it's funny that you said Robin Williams. People.
Yep.
And that
thought about that.
Well, but what's interesting about that, and unfortunately, I am not an expert in suicide prevention, but I am an expert in helping survivors, which I'll consider a suicide survivor.
Mm-hmm.
But B, we tend to think that, and I say expert, I don't like that. I was being kind of facetious when I said that I'm not an expert in anything, but we tend to think of kids who take their lives as dark and brooding and, sullen. And I'm sure there's some of that, but far more are the Robin Williams type or the Ben Schwartzman type who, I remember after he died, and I got so many stories that I collected from his friends. And, I got this letter from this one girl. I have all these letters at home that I can't read. I mean, they're in my drawer, and sometimes I'll take them out and say, oh, I should read these. And I read like the first one. Yeah, put it back. I can't. I'm not going to do this. I can't do it, but I'm going to save them anyway. And there's one letter said, how sweet he was, and they used to love to go camping. And obviously when you're 16, 17, you go camping, you could drink and smoke and do some shit, which this just in, I did too. And, but I survived, I didn't have that gene that said I got to keep going until, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But, they said that whenever we went camping or anywhere, and used to go to music festivals, they always demanded that Ben brought his guitar, and they would all just sit around in a circle and play for us.
So what's camping without a campfire and a guitar?
Correct. And, she said that she told me the story that one time they were in the backyard and, they were all sitting around and Ben was playing and her dad came down.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, my dad said, holy cow, this kid is going to be a star. Through a whole series of random events. And again, we could talk. I don't know how much tape you have. I know we don't use tape anymore, but
it's on the cloud.
Yeah. Okay. So we go on forever. I could fill the cloud till it rains.
Or snows.
Yeah, exactly. And it might, through a whole series of events that we might get into. And I'll tell you the story, but ultimately his music winds up on Amazon, Spotify and, thank you. And, so the guy who helped me with that, and he was a total stranger who I met, which is a lovely story, which I could tell you, but, I'll fast forward. He calls me up and says, Ed, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to put some music out there. I said, oh my God, that's amazing. And he said, but one thing, I need your bank account because if somebody streams the music, we gotta, you have to tell Spotify where the money's going.
Right.
And since day one, from October 15, 2007, when I said, I got to do something with this music, I said, I cannot make a penny off of this. I mean, what kind of dad would possibly want to make a penny off of his late son's music? Why not do something good with it, which will give him more,
yes.
To me, it'll make it much more digestible.
Right.
Like, look what we did. Look what my son could
benefit people going.
benefit. That's the word. That's the word. So I called up a good friend of mine who lives here in Bloomington, and I said, Ron, I've got somebody's going to help me, but I need a not-for-profit. It doesn't have to be mental health, but it'd be nice. And he said, Centerstone, they do a nice job here in Bloomington. So I thought it was just a local organization right here in town. I called them up and whoever I spoke to, I don't know. And I said, here's what I'm calling. I want to be able to send money to you. I don't know how, it could be $1, it could be $1 million. I don't know. I don't know how this all works, but I don't want to make a penny and I need some information so I can forward any money to you guys. And she says, well, that wouldn't be Centerstone would accept it, but it wouldn't be us. You got to call our corporate office. Okay, where is that? Nashville, Tennessee. And I talked about Bashara before. Again, that's fake because I hear Nashville, like my antenna is always up.
Cindy.
Right. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, I always have the saying in my head, this is it. Like, I'll tell you a story about John Mellencamp. Well, I should write this down because I have so many stories I want to tell that I haven't thought about in years. But so they say Nashville. So I call them up and I'm thinking, okay, whoever sits on the board, I guarantee knows Zach Brown. I'm not big on country music, but you know, Brad Paisley, they have, everyone knows somebody. I mean, it's as big as the world as it is, every world is really small, the country music. So I said, one of the board members has to know somebody in that arena. And so I called them up, they accepted. And so, the good news is that if you do stream his music, it goes for a good cause, which makes me feel very good. I'm going to pivot. Can I tell you my John Mellencamp story? I think you'll enjoy that story.
I want to hear.
Okay.
I want to hear that.
Okay.
And let me put this away.
Yeah.
Because I do have things to ask you, but we'll get to that.
Okay. So, I'm in my restaurant, and I'll never forget this. Standing behind a counter, and it's not that busy, but it's busy enough. And the way our counter works, you walk up and order. It's like Panera. We don't have full service, no waiter, waitress. You walk up to the counter, place your order, sit down, we'll call your name. Nelson, John Nelson. So this guy walks up. I'm taking an order from somebody, and over his shoulder, I could see what appears to be a father and son walking in. And I've never met John Mellencamp, but something said to me, I kind of knew what he looked like, but you know, it's not, at this point, it's like 2010, 11, 12. And Mellencamp,
You probably hadn't seen him for a while.
right, he's still relevant, but
Right.
not as relevant as he was in 1980 when I was in college. And the guy's wearing glasses, but the rock star glasses was the kind of the thing that made me think that it was Mellencamp.
Right.
So he's with what I figured out or guessed was his son. So I'm talking to this customer taking his order. And all I want to do is get rid of this customer so I can now wait on this guy with his son about what I can get him. You know, what can I get for you? And I just want to hear him talk. I figured if I could hear his voice, I would know. Well, in the meantime, the guy I'm waiting on starts asking me all these questions. You know, what kind of oil do you use? Is there gluten in this? I'm like, please just get out of here. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You know, I only want to talk to that guy. He winds up working with the cashier next to me. And I'm just staring. I'm listening and listening. And now I'm convinced within much certainty that it's him. So if you come into my restaurant, Buffalo Louie's, there is a big poster of Mellencamp that he had signed years ago. And in the poster, there's a very unique necklace. He's sitting kind of like leaning, and the necklace that he's wearing, now this is a Jewish mezuzah, but it's kind of similar. So he's sitting and his necklace is like this. So I walk over to him, and you met me. I talk to anybody and I touch anybody. And when I say touch, I don't mean inappropriately, but I put my hands on people. And that's how I'm cut. I mean, if I can read it, if it's a bad move, I back away. And no one's ever gotten offended. If they do, they don't let me know. So I walk over to him, and this is a camera right here. Now
Yep, that's yours.
So he's standing here. The counter is here. And I walk over to his right. And now he's standing right. He's very short.
Yeah.
Maybe 5'6", 5'7". And I'm not a giant, but I'm 6 foot. So I put my hand on his shoulder and I look at him, and he looks up at me like, what? And I point to the poster and I say to him, I say, you know, I'm sure you hear this all the time, but you look exactly like that guy. Okay. So he gives me a coy smile. He looks up at me, reaches into his shirt and pulls out the necklace and says, you should have seen me 30 years ago. Now, I'm so stupid. At first, I said to myself, this guy is like a Mellencamp stalker.
Oh, okay.
Who, this is how my brain works, because I'm an idiot. And so said, he's trying to, no, he's trying to tell me he is Mel. So I said, I take a rest. John, it's good to meet you. And he shakes my hand. And so he's with his son. So now they go sit down. So I go in the kitchen. I tell my wife, my new wife, Jamie, who we own the restaurant together. I go, Jamie, Mellencamp's in the store. Mellencamp, I'm shaking. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I said, I got to tell him about Ben. She's like, I don't know. He has a bad reputation. And to John's credit, I've seen interviews with him where he admits he's not the nicest guy. Like some celebrities have this public persona, like I'm the nicest guy in the world, and then it jerks to everybody. Mm-hmm. He admits, and I kind of dig that. He's true to himself. If you don't like it, that's okay. But he's not pretending to be something he's not. So
you know what you get.
Correct. Yep. So I do know there's a chance he might storm out.
Right.
But I'm like, Jamie, first of all, we've been here for 5 years. If he says, I'm never coming back to your restaurant, I don't think we're losing a lot of business. And the risk is worth the reward. So I walk over to his table, and he's sitting at a table of 4. So he's sitting on one side, his son is sitting at the other. And I said, John, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. I said, I know you're enjoying a nice lunch with your son, but I have something I really feel compelled to share with you. It'll only take 60 seconds. Can I please share something with you? And he said, sure. And I don't ask. It's a table of 4. He's sitting here. Son's over there. This seat is open in front of him. I just sit down. I don't say, can I sit? I sit down. So now his son is pinned in next to me. And I open up with a Bob Dylan line, which I use a lot from Like a Rolling Stone. I said, in the words of Bob Dylan, when you ain't got nothing, you ain't got nothing to lose. And I got nothing to lose by sharing this with you. And then my next line was, John, about 5 years ago, whatever it was, at that time, I lost my son, Ben, to suicide. Now, as I'm speaking, his son, whose name is Speck, is getting up to refill his drink because we have a soda machine. And you got to do refills. Right. And as his son is getting up, and his son's literally getting up as I'm saying, I lost my son to suicide, Mellencamp reaches out, puts his hand on my hand, and says, wait, I want my son to hear this.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy shit, I got him.
Yep.
I'm already accepting the Grammy for the best award. It's a done deal. I got Mellencamp. I mean, I got the guy I really dream of. This is it. It's over. The rest is just details. So the son comes back. I talk a little bit, not a lot. And so the son was on Facebook, and I wasn't good with technology. P.S. I'm still not good with it. So I said, here's what I'll do. I used to have CDs in the basement. I regret very terribly that I did not have a CD to give him, although I doubt that would have mattered. But I said, I'll send the files via Messenger to Spec, and then he'll give them to you. And I always try to be not aloof, but I'd love to hear from you. Whatever you decide to do, if I never hear from you again, it's okay. Please load it up. Please let it get back to me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if I say if I come off as a strong personality at this point, good. I have none of the cards to play. I'm desperate,
but I got to play it cool.
Right. So John, I'd love to hear from you. If you have any ideas, whatever you got. He hugs me. Holy shit! It was the most lovely conversation. So now I send the son the files. And a day, 2, 3 days, a week, every day I log on. Today's the day. 30 days. And I even promised, I said, I will not harass. I won't reach out. But of course, now 30 days go by. I can't fucking take it anymore. I got to reach out. So I send the note to Spec. I said, Spec, I know I promised you I wouldn't reach out, but I'm just curious. Were you able to share the music with your dad? And he said, he responds just one line. He goes, me and my dad don't communicate anymore. So I wrote back. I'm really sorry to hear that. I said, this project really is irrelevant to that. I said, the only irony is I would do anything I could to talk to my son, and I can't. I said, you guys can speak, but for whatever reason, don't. I said, I sincerely hope that you guys patch it up, because to me, there's nothing more important. Something like that. So now, all right, so that's dead in the water, but I always have my antenna on. A few months later, Mellencamp releases a musical here on campus with T-Bone Burnett. It was kind of like I wish I knew the name of it. It was kind of like the Bridges of Madison County, but I know that it's not the name of it. It was something along those lines. So I go to this show that Mellencamp had written, and the music was great. But as I'm sitting there reading the playbill, they give you so I'm reading the program. I'm always have my antenna on. And the first page of the playbill, it says Johnny G, John Mellencamp's personal bass player. He's been with Mellencamp forever. and he owns a music studio up in Indianapolis where he teaches kids music. And so I went home, and the next day I sent him an email, and at his business says, I'm interested in our services. So I send an inquiry, and my inquiry basically says, hey, this is who I am. If there's any way you can, either get me in front of Mellencamp, or if you're interested. And so, he says, I'm going to be in town next week. I said, you like chicken wings? Please come in. Lunch is on me. I always like the lunch is on me. I don't care if you're a pawner, a prince, or a pauper. Lunch on me is always an attractive way to go. So I said, please come in. So now he walks, he's expected at 1:00, and my heart is bumping like this, I know this is my guy. And he walks in, he's got it's a fall day, a nice fall day in Bloomington. He's got a black leather overcoat, black leather pants, boots, silver everywhere. Just the most gorgeous guy you've ever seen. Like Central Casting, get me the coolest looking bass player you could find. It's Johnny G. Okay. So he walks in and shake hands, and we order wings, and we serendipitously sit right at the same table that Mellencamp and I sat at with his son.
Right.
So I tell him the story, and I tell him how I sent the note to his son afterwards saying, hey, I wish you all luck. Really, I hope you guys can patch things up. This project is irrelevant compared to what you guys got going on. And he says, does Mellencamp know you're talking to his son like that? And I want to say, schmuck. How would I know? I hope he does, but I just go, and obviously he doesn't. But instead I was like, I don't think so. He says, he needs to know that. And I'm like, I got him again. Because now Johnny G is going to say, Mellencamp, this guy's Schwartzman, he's trying to patch things up with you. And any dad would say, my God, there's nothing, I don't care if you have a great relationship or a bad relationship with your kid. There's nothing more important, in my humble opinion. And so I'm like, I got him again. He goes, Ed, I'll speak to you soon. I'm going to see if I can help you. I don't know how it ended, but it ended well. And when he left, I thought, oh my God, I got him again. And then I couldn't tell you exactly how it fizzled out, but it fizzled out.
I do want to, if we want to call this segment, maybe wrap up this segment, if we could play a song.
That'd be great.
So do you have a suggestion? You have something you want to?
Well, I'll tell the story.
Do it.
All right. So this is probably the last song he ever recorded. So Ben, I kept saying, Ben, I'm living out of the house now, like right down the street, and my relationship with my son. I will say this: I love my son as much as any father loved the son, and I believe he loved me as much as any son loved the father. The fact that he's no longer here is not a reflection on our relationship. And that's kind of what keeps me. I focus on the positive, and, I think of Ben, I think happy thoughts, despite the fact how it ended. And I think about how if the doctor would have turned to me on June 5th, 1988 and said, here's your son, you're going to love him as much as any dad ever loves a son, but you're going to lose him in 19 years. I take the deal every time. I'd have no choice. And that's the way I have to look at it, because I can't, that's not how it works anyway. So that's the way I'm wired. So anyway, so I said to Ben one time, I said, Ben, it's not that I hounded him, but I kept saying, you got to lighten it up. You got to do some up-tempo stuff. And so the last song he ever wrote, he comes, knocks on my door, says, Dad, I wrote a song I think you're really going to like. So, oh, what's it called? And he would never tell me the lyrics, ever, for good reason. But he says, it's called Big Man. And now you have to understand, when he said that, he would call me, he would say, hey, big man, what's going on? And my son was not small, but he was slight. He had a very slight frame. He was maybe 5'8", 5'9". He wasn't finished growing, I don't think, but maybe he was. He's already 19, so he was not going to be a big guy, and he had a very slight frame. He was not, barrel chested or whatever, not an intimidating figure. But so he would call me big man. And so, hey, big man, what's going on? And so he said the name of the song is Big Man. And the song Father of Mine, Father of Mine. And I'm thinking this is going to be a song about me, and he's going to rip me apart for whatever reason. Because at this point, his mom and I are separated, but not divorced yet. And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as you are singing.
Right.
Because I knew how fragile it was. So I didn't care. It wasn't going to feel good, but I had to put on a veneer and say, whatever it is, Ben. I didn't say it is, but in my warped mind. So, I go to a show, and we'll play the song in a second, but the opening line is, big man up in the sky, when is my time to die? Could it be tomorrow? Keymaster opened the door. I'm sitting here waiting for more, but it's all been locked away. And so he's singing to God. So that's what Big Man is in the song, the way I hear it. And so I was a little off when I thought that I was the big man, not even close. And so, but it's an up-tempo song. So let's play Big Man.
Let's do that.
Okay, thank you. Earlier, we were talking about how the music moves people. Like I mentioned how some do and some don't, and it's okay. And it's kind of like shoving things into a tube. Something's got to come out the other side. It has to. And so I have talked to countless people about this project. And it's not like I'm doing it every day, but over the years, I've just accumulated all these stories and all these interactions. And so years ago, I'm at Buffalo Louise, and I'll never forget this. I'm downstairs, and one of my employees says, Ed, somebody is here to see you. And I come up, and it's a guy introduced himself. His name is John Armstrong, lovely guy, lives here in the community. And at the time, he was into making movies. He was an actor, director. I don't think he does that anymore, but that's what he was doing. And he shook my hand and said, listen, I am making this movie. It's going to be, he didn't tell me, but ultimately becomes known as The Good Castle. It was released. I don't know how it did, but it was a real movie. I watched it. And he says, we're filming right here in Bloomington. And we're looking for donations for people to feed our staff.
Okay.
And in exchange, if you feed the crew, we'll put your name, on the
credits.
On the credit.
Yeah.
And not to be cocky, but I really didn't care about that. But he doesn't know it yet. But I'm thinking I'm doing this because my theory is everybody knows somebody. And the odds might be good that he knows somebody could help get me to my goal of getting Ben's music mass produced and raising millions, and awareness, and his name gets known and I die. And I'm
A master plan.
correct. Right. And he's the guy. So the day comes, we set up the day for me to drive to his, they had built a fake dining room and the whole set inside a warehouse here in town. It was really kind of neat. And I drove over there to bring the food. And I bring the food over and I have Ben's CD. This is how old these stories are. I had all these CDs made. I had a picture of him. I did a peel and stick where I put the picture on top of this, on the music. Really neat. And so anyway, I said, I give him the food. I said, John, do you have a second? I'd like to share something with you. And, I figured there's no way he's going to say no. I just put him free food. And of course he listens. And I said, listen, here's the music. I said, if you could use it. I said, I own all the rights. If you're interested, if you could use it in the movie, that'd be great. If you can't, that's okay too. And I don't want to be partially, but it'd mean a lot to me if you could. And I appreciate it. He says, I'll take a listen. And he gets back to me almost right away and says the music was great, but unfortunately, all the music has been selected or we can't use it because of VASCAP or who knows what. And I'm fine. Thank you so much. Fast forward, years go by, maybe 2-3 years. And he walks into the restaurant and says, Ed, I've got something for you. And he's a nice guy. I always like seeing him. We always have a good exchange. He said, I've got something for you. And so what do you got? He says, I'll never forget this line he gave me. He said, Ed, Ben's music has always been on my heart. He goes, do you remember when you gave me Ben's music? I'm like, yeah, I remember. Of course I remember. No, I played it down. I said, yeah, I remember. He says, and now just the fact that he says it's my heart is racing because something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. He says, unbeknownst to you, first of all, his music's been on my heart ever since you shared it with me. I've always it's been top of mind and top of heart. He says, there's a music studio and I cannot come up with the name, but hopefully after we film, maybe we could remember. He says, unbeknownst to you, there's this music studio outside of town. It's a gorgeous studio. You wouldn't even know it if you pay, unless you're specifically going there. You wouldn't even know it's there. It's a house that he converted into this amazing studio. And he says the owner is a friend of mine, and I asked him to do me a favor and just look at the music and see if he could remaster it. And he said he's been working on it for a while now, and it's ready. And I would like for you and I to go out there next week and you can go listen to it. And I'm hugging him. I'm crying. I'm like, oh my God, that's so. And this is all had nothing to do with me.
You didn't even know what's going on.
Correct. It's going on unbeknownst to me. So I call up the studio or I find out, I said, how many people are going to be out there? And they tell me there's going to be a band. They said, well, there's 3 people here, but there's also a band that's recording. And the band that's recording, my antenna goes right up right away because I'm thinking this is it. They're going to take the music. They're going to record it. They're going to make, I said, they're going to raise money and they're going to make money. I said, oh, by the way, when I say I'd like to raise money for Centerstone, if a band says, and we don't want to do for Centerstone, we just like one of the songs, we want to make millions, fine. I don't care. I just don't want to make a penny because if they make millions on the song and people say, wow, that's a great song. And they say in the original, it was originally written by Ben Schwartzman, it still will do good. I'm not even, well, it has to be to Centerstone. No, not critical at all. So anyway, I'd say how many people will be there? 3 plus the band. Great. I'm bringing plenty of food. So I bring all kinds of food out there because that's always the break the ice kind of thing. So everybody likes to eat. Mm-hmm. So I go out there, bring the food, and they say, you want to go to the studio? Yes. And the studio's gorgeous. Got this gorgeous soundboard. And the band is sitting off to the side and he says, do you want to hear some of the songs? And I kind of start telling the story a little bit. So, well, before, just so you guys can be caught up on. And oh, by the way, the guy, I'm so sorry I cannot come up with his name. He tells me the story that his wife, that John Armstrong actually had given it to his wife. And his wife had said to the engineer, who's her husband, you need to do something.
Oh.
And it was sitting on his desk. He fessed up to me, Ed, I feel terrible. I should have done this a while ago. It's been on my end. There's something in your inbox that you never get to.
Yep.
Something else gets bumped out of it. And his wife kept bugging him. And eventually she said, just get this done. And he did. And that's all part of the process, right? So I tell 1 or 2 stories and then he plays the music. And And it was just, it never sounded better. He just remastered as much as he could. So anyway, we played the music. I go home, we hug and we kiss, and I'm crying, and I leave. And about a week later, one of the band members calls me. Says, Ed, I'm so-and-so. I'm with the band that I think they're called the Highlanders. Lovely guy. Another name I can't remember off the top of my head because I'm not the sharpest guy in the world. And I should have brought notes, but I didn't. So shame on me. And he says, Ed, I was really moved. I listened to your son's music and I'm really moved by it. And he tells me that he is the press secretary for one of the Indiana State U.S. senators, that he knows how to work media. I'm like, okay, my heart's bump, 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 bump. Like, this is it. There's another, this is it moment. I've had countless this is it moments. And so he says, I think I can get you on NPR, at least NPR, if not the Today Show.
Oh.
Like, here's my rubber arm. Twisted. Here's my rubber arm twisted. Let's go. And I will not get stage fright. Like, anything I can do to move the story forward, I'm in. And again, because I'm not trying to make any money, it's even better. Because if it just looks like a money grab, who the hell wants to help this guy make money off of his dead son's music? But wow, we're raising money and awareness. That's pretty cool. So he says, first thing, we got to get you on Apple Pay. And he's the one. I said, well, how much money do you want? Because I don't want to pay. Right. Like, are you sure? He said, yeah, no, I want to do this. I really want to do this for you. And so just like the guy who did the recording, just like John Armstrong, who I gave him the music, if he never did anything again, like he gave it to somebody else, then gave it to her husband, said, clean this up. And now this other guy, it was unbelievable. These things happen a lot to me. And so he's the one who cleaned it up, and he's the one who said, he calls me, says, all right, we need it. Where are we sending the money? And that's when I came up with Center Zone. And so I've already told that story, but that all happened because of a local movie. And so it's just amazing, how these things happen. I'm thinking of all these stories. You want?
I mean, I'm sure you have a wealth of stories.
Too many. So I had a friend here in town who was in a local play, and anytime there's anybody doing any kind of drama or the arts, I'm always in, because this is where I want to fish. If you want to catch a fish, you got to fish. You got to fish where the fish are. And anybody in the arts, like, it wasn't like there's a plumbers convention. You know what I mean? So it was just a local play, but I went. And afterwards, I was very impressed with her acting. And I said, you're really good. I said, I want to share something with you. I said, this might go nowhere, but I just feel compelled to share with you. And I said, if you listen to it. But a week later, she calls me. And people in the arts are always so lovely. They're just cut from a different cloth. She goes, Ed, I have a friend. Is it okay if I share your story with my friend? I'm like, share it with the world, please. So a friend, another name I cannot recall right now, and again, because I'm an idiot, we meet at Buffalo East. She is a playwright. She writes musicals. Okay. And she says to me, she says, your son left you? I said, what? She said, he left you a musical. Now, I love musicals, but I'm old. I'm 64. The musicals that I love, these up-tempo songs, even if it's Fiddler on the Roof, tradition. Yeah, I got the horse right here. His name is Paul Revere. Exactly. Songs you can snap, show tunes, even producers, show tunes.
They're in that section behind you.
You have show tunes back there, really?
I do.
Oliver, I could sing every word of Oliver. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, although now it is on Broadway now, show tunes. Mary Poppins, show tunes. So she says she writes musicals. She goes, you know what he left you? He left you a musical. Now, if you think about current musicals, whether it's Rent or all the way up to, Hamilton, today's musical is not your grandfather's musical. So she said, the hardest part, you know what the hardest part of writing musicals is? The music. She pitches me an idea. She goes, I have an arc of a story. It's going to look like this. She said, the story is told by Ben's sister, Haley, and she is the voice of the story. And it culminates. Now, in theater, they call it an 11 o'clock song. The 11 o'clock song is a song that to punch the audience in the gut. This is the one everybody's crying. There's a French word, there's a fancy word for the high point of the play.
Okay.
And she said, that's called the 11 o'clock song. I think because when it's night theater, 11 o'clock is, they're letting them at 11:10. It's the conclusion of the show, the 11 o'clock song. And she said, the 11 o'clock song is Haley's song, which we could talk about, your choice. I would like to talk about that. And she said, all the other songs are autobiographical about Ben. And she said, what I envision is we'll create this story. It'll be a 2-person play, just Ben and Haley. And we'll have the band off stage. She says, I envision it's played in every high school gym in America, and every high school kid sees this musical. Oh my God. And now when I re-listen to Ben's music, I could see the story. Until then, there were 11 songs. They're related because they're by Ben. But now it's like a rock opera by Tommy by the Who. They're connected. There is a thread. She said, there's a guy in Nashville that she uses. We might need him to write a bridge song because we might need one extra song to tie it all together. Fine. She says, he will cost some money. And, and I didn't have any money back then. Not that I'm printing it now, but I definitely had none. I had much less back then. And I said, well, when you're ready, let me know. Cause she's like, I got this project going on, that project going on. She said, but I'm really interested in this. And, she faded away, which is fine. They come and they go, and this is this life, and I don't get affected. But she planted a seed. So after I met with her, since then, I have sent an email. And there are times I'll get very gung ho about the project, and I'll send emails around the world twice over. And I have sent an email to every single English speaking musical theater school, whether it's a college or a high school. I just would Google, and Australia, by the way, for some reason, is very proactive when it comes to suicide prevention, more so than America. It's much more open there. So, children's theater, adult theater. I said, listen, here's what I got, this asset. Do whatever you want with it. If you can monetize it, monetize it. I don't care. I just think there's something here for somebody creative to mold. And I've had all these conversations with people about that. So, is it a musical? Maybe yes, maybe no, in the right hands. It could just be one song. But
it's amazing to have that idea, at least the idea put into your mind, and now you have something visual to see along with the music. That was, I mean, that's a gift in itself.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I want to talk about Haley's songs. I think
let's do that, please.
Okay.
And then maybe we can play a little bit.
Okay. I would love to. So, Ben dies, and he was 19 and a half when he died. And his sister, Haley, was maybe 16. She was 2 years behind him in high school. And, I mentioned earlier, it's got to be the absolute worst hand to play.
Yeah.
Everyone knows, there's the girl whose brother just died. I mean, I cannot imagine. I mean, high school is tough enough. I mean, it can be brutal. But about a year after he dies, she writes this song that we're going to play in a second called Your Choice, which I compare this song. When we play it, if I didn't set it up and tell the audience what it's about, there's a song by Eric Clapton called Tears in Heaven, which, if you don't know what it's about, his son Connor, I want to say 2.5, falls out of a hotel window in Manhattan. I don't know if Clapton was in the room or not, but if you listen to the song, would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong to carry on. So if you don't know what it's about, you would listen to it. Oh, what a pretty melody. That's a nice song. Now I'll say, listen to it again and understand it's a father singing to his son. And he's wondering if he could see him again in heaven. He's hoping he can. Will the son even know who he is because he was so young? Will they even recognize each other? And then he's thinking, then he says, I don't belong in heaven, because he knows that he's a flawed human being like we all are. He doesn't think he's going to make it. And try to listen to that song and not cry and not turn into a bowl of Jell-O. You can't do it. So with Haley's song, Your Choice, if you listen to it the first time, I don't tell you what it's about. Kind of the same beat, same lullaby tempo. Well, it's a nice lullaby. Now let's do it again. This is a teenage girl singing to her brother who hung himself in the basement of her house. And the phrase Your Choice is the choice he made. And I always thought that of all the songs that we have here, in terms of which is the one that could be the We Are the World song, I always felt it's Haley's Your Choice. Because even though it's like this Ben Schwartzman project, the only song in Ben's album that's not by him is Haley's song, but it kind of wraps the project up like in this little bow, right, saying, all right, here's this gifted performer. He left us 11 songs, took his life way too, you think about it, 19 years old. What if he would have died at 20? Would we have 10 more songs? What if he would have died at 22? Thank God I have 11. But for Haley to put down the song she put down in the same studio, using Ben's guitar, just amazing. So this is your choice, please.
Let's hear that.
Okay.
As each day passes by, I ask myself, who am I?
So Ben did catch the attention of musicians, and you told me before about Dogs in a Pile covering that song live. But tell me that story of how how that all came about.
Again, you keep shoving it in the tube, something's got to come out the other side. I had a employee working for me, and anyone who knows me for any amount of time, it's not like if I meet a new person, hi, I'm Ed Schwartzman, my son died by suicide, can you help me? But if it's appropriate, I talk about it. I don't hide from it. There's no benefit in hiding from it. It is what it is. And I think the more people I tell,
It's called awareness.
exactly. And A and B, if you want to get somewhere with a dream, a vision, I do believe that people want to help other people, particularly, if it's a cause that they believe in and they like the music. I mean, I'm sitting here with you. I'm sitting with you right now. For that very reason, you're proof positive that I had nothing to lose by saying it to you. In the worst case, I never would have seen you again, or you would just buy bagels for me and, whatever. So anyway, I had a guy working for me, and he knew my dream. And he says, "Yeah, this guy's a big Deadhead fan. He loves the Grateful Dead."
Yes.
And I'm not an anti, but I'm not going to go out of my way. I like the Dead. I have nothing against them. And so he says, "Ed, I'm a big fan of the Dead, and now I'm a big fan of a group called Dogs in a Pile." And I had never heard of this group. And he says, "I got to tell you, I think they'd be really a good band to reach out to for your dream for Ben's music." He says, "They do a lot of neat things like this. I think they'll be interested in." And of course, I'm thinking, well, what does he know? But what the hell do I got to lose? So I looked them up online, and right away I'm like, oh my God, this is meant to be. And the two things that were just shocking to me, one, two of the four band members are from Long Island, which is where I'm from. Ben was born and raised born in California, but born and raised in Indiana. But I'm minutes.
He's a Queens guy, right?
Very good, yes. And they're from right near where I grew up, Queens, Long Island. I mean, right near it. And so that was one thing. And two, and more importantly, most of the band attended Berklee School of Music in Boston, not Berkeley in California, but Berklee School of Music. And the reason that's very important to me is, and I won't tell the whole story, but I was invited out to the Berklee School of Music, and they gave Ben's song "Big Man," which we just listened to. They gave it they took it back into the studio and gave it new life, which was amazing. There's a class. One of the classes is learn to be a studio musician. And I reached out to the School of Music and I said, "Hey, you already know the story. I've got this project. Anybody can help me. I'm over here. If you can't, that's okay. But I would love to hear from you." And then, like 6 months later, I got a phone call, and I said, "I'm flying out a plane to Boston and addressing these incredibly gifted students. All the kids walk around with guitars on their backs." I'm like, "Oh my God." And we thought about sending Ben there, but we were just so afraid. I just the thought of him being in another city, we're just afraid we'd lose him. I mean, we lost him anyway, but so I just knew how fragile it was. So anyway, but these kids went there. Steely Dan has a big connection to Berklee School of Music. It's like IU has a Jacob School of Music, which I've reached out to countless times with zero interest, even though they have blown smoke up my tuchus every now and then that they're interested in, and I never hear back from them.
That's unfortunate.
It is. Now, to me, what a layup. It's a local story, and I do a lot with the community and IU, and who knows? Maybe somebody's going to hear this and say, "You know what? We need to change this." But they've been disappointing. But I hold no malice because I'm still here, and if they call me tomorrow, all is forgiven. And I think it's a good, it could raise millions, and what a beautiful thing. And suicide prevention and awareness is a big deal right now. So anyway, so I send my email to them, and I make the connections. I say, "I see you went to Berkeley. I got a Berkeley connection." I spoke to Marty Walsh's class, who's a professor there, and if you're interested, I'd love to hear from you. Well, of all the times I've sent an email or reached out, their manager responded without question, like the fastest of all time. And his response was, "Thank you for sending this to me, or to us. We're very interested. I'll get back to you." Boom, 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 boom. But I'm also thinking, all right, well, here comes the next step, which is I never hear from him again. And a month will go by. And I'll say, "Well, you said you were interested." So now I don't hear from him again. He said, "We're interested." And I'm waiting and waiting. And so then I look at their calendar, and they're going to play in Indianapolis like in 2 months. And so I've sent him the note like in March, and they're going to play in Indianapolis in June. So I tell a little white lie. I send him an email. I say, hey, I see you guys are playing in Indy. I got tickets. I'm going to the show. And I was going to, if he didn't respond back, I probably wouldn't have went. But he said, that's great. And then I said, I've got a bagel shop. I know the kids are from Long Island. I said, I'd love to bring bagels up. I said, I know life on the road is no joyride. I promise you they'll be happy with what I bring. I'd like to feed the fellas breakfast when they get to Indy. And he says, that would be great. And so we go up and meet the band, and they're setting up. Life on the road is no joyride. They're schlepping in. They have roadies, but they're also carrying in their own stuff, and there's a lot to set up. And they're playing at a nice venue. I think it's called the Hi-Fi, or am I correct?
Familiar with it? Yeah.
A great little venue,
Yeah.
nice size venue. And I didn't know what they knew. I didn't know if the manager told them I was going to be there. Is this some schmuck just bringing them bagels, which I am? But so as I'm setting up the food, I said, guys, if you just have a second, because they seemed very disinterested in me, which is fine. I don't get offended. I'm going to keep swinging the bat. But I said, gentlemen, just so you know, the reason I'm here, I said, I'm happy to bring you bagels. I am a fan. At that point, I was listening to the music over and over to, they're a jam band, a la Grateful Dead, and incredibly talented musicians. So I said, guys, the reason I'm here is that, A, I wanted to bring you food, but B, I've got this project I'm working on. I don't know if you even know anything about it, but I sent all the files to your manager, Ross. And if there's ever any interest, I would love to do something. I'm not looking to make any money. You know the pitch. So the show is at 8:00. This is like at 10:30 or 11:00 that day. So I come back home, and then me and a couple of buddies from the store, we're all big fans of Dogs in a Pile. We go back to see the show, and the place is packed like sardines. I mean, incredibly packed. Don't tell a fire marshal, because this place is a disaster. And so first I stay in the back because I just have a foot surgery, so I can't walk that well, and I want to lean on something. And after about 6, 7 songs, I'm right behind the sound guy, right in front of the sound guy, at the very back of the room. And all my group is up front, right in front of the stage. I'm by myself. I'm like, this is okay, but I'm not having a great time. And the show was good, but I'm just standing and my feet hurt.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Maybe I'll go to the front and be with my friends. That might be better, because I was all by myself. And so pardon me, I go all the way to the front. And now I'm right in front of the speaker.
Oh, the worst place to be.
I'm already 64 years old, and my hearing is going. It's all going. And this is not unusual at my age, all right? So I'm not shocked by it. It's just slow, but I know it's going.
You don't want to encourage you to keep
correct. And my wife wants me to wear this fancy watch now, and my watch is saying, you're in extremely loud environment, and temporary deafness could result. Now, if it said it to a 17-year-old, I don't give a shit, bring it on. I'm looking at that thinking, and there's no way to stop it. I can't cover my ears. I want to stand. So I stand there for about 2 songs.
Can you turn it down?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not kidding. The speaker here's my face. Here's the stage right here. I mean, I could touch the speaker. Like the wind is coming out of it. So I finally said, I'm going to go, guys, I'm going to get some air. I go outside. As I'm going outside, so I go, and I had gotten there early, so I had rock star parking. I parked right in front. So I go outside and I sit in the car, and I'm going to play. I'm so happy to sit down. I'm in my car, turn my engine on, and I start to play a game of chess on my phone, because that's when I geek out, I play chess. I love chess.com. So I start to play chess, and I get a text from one of my buddies in the show. They said, Ed, we think you need to come back in. Or you should come back in. Now, my first thought was, they're dicking with me. They just, they're, oh man, let's bring it back in. Don't let me sit in the car. But then I said, wait a minute, what if they're right? So I said, I can't afford to get this wrong. So I get out of the car and I walk inside, and they're just starting to play Big Man. And my first thought was, I fucked this up. I was right there. I'm a terrible man. I'm a terrible father. I could have been right in front. Instead, now, once again, all the self-loathing, which we do as parents, I didn't do the right thing. I couldn't do the right thing for my son when he was alive. And now here they're playing this song. But I think that for half a second. The next thing I think is, I got to get to the front. I got to get to the front. And I am not kidding. It's wall to wall. And I have the video, which I won't bother showing you. I turn the camera on, and I'm holding it like this. Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me. And the video is hysterical because, and I probably set a world record for getting there. Probably pissed off every person there. But they're playing Ben's song. And they kill it. I mean, they just kill it. And I didn't know any of this, okay? After the song, they bring up the house lights. And this is all on, you can see this all online. They bring up the house lights. And Brian Murray, it's a collaborative team. So I don't want to say he's the leader of the band. He's one of four, but it looks amazing.
Spokesperson.
Yeah. In this case, Brian Murray reads. He says, I normally don't like to read. He goes, but I want to make sure I get this right. And he reads this beautiful thing about Ben and how special this was and how I'm in the audience. And this is all unbeknownst to me. It's not as if they said, Ed, we're going to do something for you tonight. I had no idea. And I mean, I'm just shaking. Okay. And now I'm also pissed because the video I got is so bad. And then after the show, I mean, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. And the manager comes out and I'm like, I was here, but I wasn't here. And I told him the story. He says, Ed, the whole show was live streamed because I got the whole thing. Don't worry about it. So like the next day they put out a clip and they tagged me. The song went viral in my mind. I mean, it probably had like 75,000 views. To me, it certainly was the high point. So they played the same song again, like a week later in another venue. And now, they played it again randomly cause every night, you can go on. I don't check to see what they're playing, but the manager sent me a note saying, Ed, they've always played Big Man again. Now they're playing in Portland, in February. And I sent them a note saying, hey, like after they played it again, I said, I'm so grateful to anything you're doing. But if you play Big Man in Portland, my daughter Haley will be there. It would mean the world to her. And they said, we'll make it happen. And so that is amazing. And the funny thing, it's funny how music can bring us together. The manager fessed up to me, said, Ed, I got to tell you, when you sent me that email, the band had been on the road for a very long time. And I was worried about the future of the band. Now try to imagine living, I saw the band, it's a nice bus, but it's a bus. And they're living with each other. And, you got Cheetos and, stale beer and stale pot smell.
Garbage all over.
Right. And it just smells and you're at each other's throats because it's life. How could you live in a bus? Like if you and I were on a bus for a week, we'd be okay. But we're talking about 6 months on the road. It's a long time. Yeah. He said, Ed, for the first time ever, I was really worried about the future. I didn't know if the band was going to make it. But we got your email and the band rallied around your song about Big Man because I think your song saved our band. It's a high note in a long line of high notes for me. And the notes keep getting higher, so.
That's all you can ask for. That's
correct.
You're doing it.
And it also, selfishly, it gives me I run into old friends and I always ask them about their kids and they're not going to say, how's Ben? They know Ben's dead. Well, I can say, hey, if you don't mind, I want to give you an update on Ben. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I can give an update on Haley. She lives in Portland. Mm-hmm. The good news about Haley, she got married. She married an amazing young man who attended Notre Dame, a great young guy, comes from a beautiful family. They live in Portland. My daughter was a singer in a Talking Heads cover band. Did you know that Portland is the world leader in cover bands?
No.
There's more cover bands in Portland per capita than any other city in America. True story. And so she said she likes to sing. And now she's finally writing her own stuff. Haley Valentine. Anybody listening, go on and follow up if they want. It'd be pretty. Maybe we could put a link. And so she's a mom, which again I talked about her earlier. How she struggled. She did struggle, and she had that tough hand to play, but she's made it through, which I'm so grateful for. And she's in a great marriage. She's a great man, gorgeous granddaughter named Amber, and anyway, so.
Well, congratulations to her.
Thank you.
And to you too.
Thank you.
And to you too. Want to talk about you?
Up to you. I'm boring, but I'm sure
I'm not boring.
Well, as compared to, but go ahead.
So we know you're from Queens. Uh-huh. We know you own Gable's Bagels. 2 locations now in Bloomington, correct?
And 1 opening in Zionsville in a matter of days. Maybe by the first of the year.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats.
It's amazing.
And of course, Buffalo's.
Also.
And that place got tore up last night.
Yeah.
Big celebration.
Well, the whole city, that story is what's going on with IU football? The tide raises and lowers all boats, and but the IU football is the tide, and the tide is higher than it's ever been, and so everyone is being sucked up in this vortex, and it's an incredible ride, and a whole series of crazy events. I mean, my life after Ben dies, I had probably a FICO score of like 490. I have 2 nickels to rub together. My life is going, I'm on a fast track to nowhere, but through a whole series of crazy events, the founder of Buffalo Louie's reaches out and says, because I was friends with him up north. He knew Ben. Ben gave his son's guitar lessons. He said, would you want to come down here and maybe help out with the store? He needed an adult presence. I just needed a fresh start. Come down here, fall in love with the town. The general manager was a young lady, considerably younger than me. She was 35. I'm 49 at the time. And I was bad. I felt like I was bad news, and stay away from me. You can do better. And her name is Jamie. And thank God she didn't give up, which I thank God for every day. I mean, you have no idea. I credit her for saving my life. And that's not a stretch.
Yeah.
Because I was heading nowhere fast, really fast. Drinking. I was, gambling. What was the point? She really rescued me, and we wound up marrying, which was a whole nother story. And then, meaning, in fact, even the way that happened was a miracle. And then a year later, our daughter is born. So at the age of 50, I'm father again for a girl named Avery, who's now 14 to be 15 in a few weeks.
Now, is she playing basketball?
Basketball at South. She's starting point guard or guard for our number 6th or 7th ranked Panthers. It's unbelievable to me, and I love basketball. I could sit and watch her play basketball. Today, I sat and watched my son Elliot. I have another son now, and I didn't have more babies to replace Ben. I mean, this was not the goal. Jamie did not have any kids, and when we decided to get married, I said, "Listen, I love raising kids. I love being a dad, despite the fact that I lost one. I think I'm a pretty good one, and if you want to have kids, I'm not going to lose you over that." And so I have a daughter who lives in Portland, Haley, who's probably 33, 34 right now. And I've got a 15-year-old playing basketball. And then I have a 10-year-old. And the phrase that I don't use very often, but I have a forever 19-year-old. That's so Ben will be forever 19. But so now I date Jamie, marry her. We buy out the founder of Buffalo Louie's. My dad lends me the money because I don't have a nickel to my name. And we've been running that store since 2007, owned it together since 2011. Opened up a bagel shop, and we opened up a second store, and now I got a store in Zionsville. And the whole thing's, it's a miracle. When I tell my story, I can't believe it's me, and I'm sincere about that. I feel like it's not like as I tell this, like, really? I only remember when I was 49 and life was coming to an end, and now here it is. I'm 64, and I'm so bullish on the future. I have so many reasons to be optimistic, and that's why I exercise a lot. I want to stick around. That's all I think about is stay healthy. I have a 10-year-old. Where am I going? I need this kid to know his dad. I mean, he knows me, but I want to be able to move. Play ball with him, and not just let's roll dad in and talk to you, and you roll him out.
So when you're a younger guy, when Ben's a little guy.
Right.
Did you influence him in his music taste? Are you guys listening to certain music at home?
I am extremely musical.
Okay.
I love music. If you're ever on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and the topic is 50s, 60s, and 70s, pop, rock, soul, I'm your guy. I'm not your heavy metal guy. I'm not your country western guy, but I'm very big into that genre of music, and I love listening to it. I love singing. I love making up words. I was actually on the game show.
Well, I was gonna lead into that.
You knew that?
I Facebook stalked you too a little bit. I saw some screenshots of.
I was on the game show. Who Wants to? Don't forget the lyrics. Yeah. And P.S. I forgot the lyrics.
I was trying to look it up, trying to see something.
Well, you can Google it. For some reason, we have the video somewhere, so I don't know. It's somewhere.
I used to watch that.
It was a great show.
I might have seen.
Wayne Brady made the show. Mm-hmm. And there's actually, with me, there's always a story. You want a story? You got time?
Is it about Wayne Brady?
It's about the whole thing about the show. So Ben dies October of 2007. At this point now, my marriage is over. I'm not technically divorced, but I'm living out of the house, and I'm in the mortgage business, and the mortgage business was going in the toilet because there's the mortgage crisis. I don't know if you know, it just happened.
yeah.
And it was just it couldn't have been any worse for me. I mean, please just send me to the bus, buy a bus, and get me out of here. So the game show with Wayne Brady, Don't Forget the Lyrics, is a big hit on TV. And all my friends who knew me at the office where I was selling mortgages were like, Ed, you got to go. I'd never heard of the show. I didn't watch TV. I couldn't afford TV because I was eating ramen noodles every night, and I was hand to mouth. So they said, there's a show on TV. You got to get on the show. So I watched one episode, and I'm like, wow, I knew every answer to every song. The songs for me. And then I see that in like December of that year, so only like 2 months after Ben dies, they're having an audition in Chicago for the show. I'm like, you know what? I really don't feel like being on national TV, but I need money, and I'm going to go with this. And by the way, I was on a game show called Scrabble with Chuck Woolery when I lived in LA in about 1982 or 83. I was returning champ.
I was going to ask, it wasn't the dating game, was it?
No. I actually did. He had a show called The Love Connection.
A Love Connection.
Yeah.
See, you corrected me.
Yeah. Too many stories for me. I actually was picked to be on Love Connection, filmed an episode. I don't know if I was ever on the show though. In other words, I filmed my bio, and then Chuck would say, "Hey, it's a salesman. Here's what he had to say about whatever." So anyway, I don't know if I was ever on that show, but
I'll be back in 2 and 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
He was a very nice guy, Chuck Woolery. I liked him a lot. But I was on Scrabble, returning.
I do remember that show.
Yeah, and that's also a fun story. I bet that's my wife calling. It is. I'm gonna have to pause.
Show's over, guys.
So I decided to go out for the show because I really think I could make some money, and I really needed the money. I mean, that was the bottom line. I needed the money. So I go to this. The audition for the show was at Navy Pier. You ever been to Navy Pier in Chicago? It's vast.
Chicago boy.
Okay, there you go. It's vast. And I go into this ballroom, and let's say I have to be there at 9:00. I get there at like 8:15. There's a line.
Mm-hmm. Down the pier?
Yeah. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell am I got to be out of my mind. Just leave. Don't stay. Just get the hell out of here. Where are you going? Yeah, you just drove here. You might as well stay. Just get out. I stay. I get to then we get let into this room, and you get a number, and now you're sitting in a room, and you're watching the game. They have the game going on a big screen while you're waiting to be called in for your one-on-one. And everyone around me are these great young-looking singers, and they're singing. And I love to sing, but I don't sing very well. And but I know every word. But the name of the show is Don't Forget the Lyrics and Sing Well. It's just Don't Forget the Lyrics. So I'm listening to everybody singing because they're all trying to intimidate everybody else to sing. And I'm like, oh my God, they're never going to pick me. They could pick her. They could pick this guy. Finally, it's my turn. I go in, and guy's name was Matt Antrim. So there's this big ballroom, and there's somebody in that corner, the 4 corners. They have a table in each corner, and you have to walk up, and the guy's sitting there looking up, and so you're number 147, Ed Schwartzman. Tell me, why do you want to be on this show? I said, well, to be honest, the first time I ever saw the show was last night. I said, but everyone who knows me is telling me that this show is perfect for me. And as long as the name of the show is Don't Forget the Lyrics, but you don't have to sing well, I got a chance. If it's Don't Forget the Lyrics and you got to sing well, I just wasted my time. And he got a little chuckle out of that. And he said, what would you do? Oh, no, he was the first one to ever ask me the following question. Do you have any kids? And that was after I lost Ben, thinking, all right, what do I answer? Once I was still any kids. And I said earlier the phrase Forever 19. Well, I hadn't heard that yet. What am I going to do? And Matt Antrim was the first one ever to ask me, do you have any kids? I said, I do. I said, I have a daughter who's 16, 17. And sadly, I just lost my son to suicide about 60 days ago. Sorry to hear that. I said, okay. He says, what would you do with the $1 million if you win? So that was the grand prize. So I said, I'll be honest, I don't know. But I want to do something for kids. I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. But I want to do something for kids. He says, all right, sing a song. So you have to sing for it. To sing a song, you got to. Right. So I sang, it was probably sang Bruce Springsteen's Thunder Road.
Okay.
The screen door slams, Mary's dress waves. And so, okay. And, just a couple of verses. I'd have to do the whole song. He's okay. He's making notes. He says, if we're interested, we'll call you. Thanks for this. And I shake his hand. And that's that. And I had a good sense, but didn't know. And I'm driving home. They call me. It's that day.
Wow.
And he says, we'd like you to come back for round 2. And round 2, my heart is a flutter. And so now round 2 is like a week later in bitter, bitter cold in Chicago at the W Hotel up in the ballroom. It's like 15 people. So I remember we get in this room and they hand out a piece of paper. It's a written quiz. And they say, guys, we're going to give you 20 minutes. It's not a race. But we need you to, when we hand them out, keep them down, turn them over. You have to complete the lines of the songs. Sweet Caroline, Good Times Never Seem So Good. They start the phrase and you got to finish it. And I'll never forget, one of the questions was about CCR's Proud Mary. And I used to play Proud Mary on the trumpet. And the song, when she says, pumped a lot of pain down in New Orleans, the actual line is pumped a lot of tane down in New Orleans because you were octane. Tane. I remember reading the sheet music and I never knew what tane meant, but I knew. So I wrote that you had to write that phrase in. That was the clue was, left a good job in the city where, they get say, so I wrote, it's either pumped a lot of pain, but I know on the sheet music, it's also pumped a lot of tane. It depends who's singing the song. So I just got stupid I was showing off. And, I was the first one done, but I just sat there. I looked at all my answers. I'm done. I know I got these all right, but there's no way I didn't get it right. But I waited for somebody else to hand theirs, and I didn't want to be first. But as soon as somebody handed theirs, then I said, right now I'm ready. So I'm second, and I walk in, the producer's there, the actual producer of the show, and he says, what song do you want to sing? I think that's when I sang Thunder Road. I said, I'm going to sing a song by Bruce Springsteen. He's, oh, my favorite artist. I said, mine too. It's like, I got this guy. I know it. And so then I said, I think the first time I sang Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard, like, I remember every little thing. Anyway, so now the footnote to the story, the reason why the story to me is so crazy, how life is amazing. So now I'm leaving and I'm talking to Jamie, the same woman that you just heard. Her tone was a little different back then. We're dating at this point. So I'm walking out and I call her and it's a bitter, cold, snowy day. And you know how ice forms on buildings?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm talking to her on the way out of the W. And I said, Jamie, I really think I'm about to say got it. A giant ice,
sheet of ice.
Yes. That had been attached to the building. Apparently
It was no longer attached.
Yes. Comes down and lands like here and explodes so loud. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was that close literally to death because people do get killed.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. And then eventually I got on the show and, which is amazing. I brought Jerry Clemens, was one of my backup singers.
Nice.
And, I was really doing really friggin' well. And I got hung up. I was up to the $100,000 song. And I mean, I'm cooking. I mean, I'm sweating and Wayne and I are getting along and I'm winning $1 million. This is it. I'm doing and Wayne wants you to win. And I want to be the first $1 million winner in TV history because no one had won $1 million up to that point. Like, I'm like 3 away. And I got my lifelines and I'm cooking. And the song by Kool and the Gang comes up. And the hook was, "You too hot, too hot, too hot, baby." And I said, gotta run for cover, gotta run for shade.
You need shelter.
Correct. Where were you? I couldn't use it. Now, what's interesting is, so I locked it in. And then, before they revealed the answer, I said, Wayne, I'm wrong. It's not cover, it's shelter. So the more I thought, I went too fast because I was out of my mind. And thank you for bringing that up. So I walked away with 25 grand, which is still not a bad day at the office. But then the final footnote to that story, which is funny, you don't get paid unless the show airs. So let's say the show is on TV and the president preempts the speech or whatever. You don't get paid.
Really?
You don't get paid. The show must air. And they decided not even to use my show that season. they said, maybe we're going to use you next season. It's showbiz, you don't know. So the next season starts, and I'm like, are they going to use it? Are they going to use it? Are they going to use it? But it did air. I got my 25 grand, which was spent before I already got it. And that's the story there. So
It's a great story.
yeah, I know we're going very long. I hope you can edit it down to about a 5-minute story. The only one that would listen to the story is my mom, and she's passed on. So
Hey, I like the story. I never heard that story. You told me a lot of your story.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
thank you.